Hello, welcome to the inspiring interview. Today's guest is an artist and an activist based out of Southsea in Portsmouth. He's got a crowdfunder campaign going on at the moment called I Exist. It's a book celebrating trans bodies. And it's Samo White. Hi, Samo. How are you doing, mate?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
No, I'm really, really good. We've been trying to get this sort of thing sorted for a while, haven't we? We're finally connecting. It's great to finally meet you.
Yeah, we got there.
I suppose, first of all, let's talk about the book. Tell us about what it is that you're doing and what it's about and all that.
Yeah, so the book came about this year in lockdown, actually. I was working on a lot of collection of drawings, which I've always used myself, I guess, as the muse for my work. Being trans myself, I have been recording through kind of art mediums, street art, illustrations, my transition for years. And I just wanted to look outside of myself and actually start drawing other trans people. I'm very aware that in the world, especially in the art world, that trans bodies aren't really represented at all. And so the book is really a celebration of how beautiful trans bodies are, and actually kind of taking up space in the art world for that to be seen. Yeah.
So is it a sort of response to the fact that you're going out, you're doing street art, you're engaging in your own artistic practice, and you're just not seeing anything representative for you or the trans community?
Absolutely. And I think, we've just recently seen Andy Warhol's current exhibition, and he had several paintings that were of trans women and trans women of colour as well. And that's the first time that that's been shown. And I can't believe in the entirety of art history, we don't have anything. There's nothing. So actually, I feel like that this is, it's so much more than a book. It's quite a political statement. And it is about, really taking up space. Yeah.
So you mentioned that you know, in your previous art practice before the book, you were using yourself as a muse, and you were sort of depicting images which inspired by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
For this book, then, are you linking in with other trans people to? I mean, are you drawing their portraits, or how are you putting this collection together, and how are they involved in it?
Yeah, so I had a couple of friends that I asked if I could draw them, and then I put out a bit of a call out, really, and it was just overwhelming. But it's been like a wonderful kind of collaboration, I guess, because a lot of people that are transitioning, whether that's medically, socially, have like this real discomfort with their body. So the process of them kind of being vulnerable and taking photos for me, and then me drawing them, has also made them feel more comfortable. So it's just been a really beautiful ongoing thing, I guess, that's kind of just becoming its own project, I guess.
And where did the idea for the crowdfunder start? What made you go down this route?
I mean, I dabbled with the idea of just thinking, right, it doesn't matter when this book is made. I could, save for it, and I could, potentially fund it myself. But I love the idea. I'm really kind of big into kind of community and awareness, and a crowdfunder's a wonderful way to kind of get everybody involved. People share a crowdfunder, people will learn about it, because it will be an educational tool as well, and there's so many incredible allies out there that are, straight, heteronormative. Everybody wants to kind of, I think, educate themselves. This year has shown us with a lot of movements that people want to learn and be better. And I think a crowdfunder was a great way to kind of get everybody involved and engaged with that.
I like the concept of that, the fact that if you engage, even if it's 5, 10 quid, whatever it is, then you're a part of it. No matter what, you're a part of it if that project comes up, and then you can follow the progress of the project. You can feel more intimately involved in the project. Maybe get to know you a little bit better as the artist. Maybe get to know the people in the book a little bit better. It's something that I think is becoming more and more important for things like this, isn't it? Getting the sort of communities involved and getting them behind an idea like this.
Yeah, definitely. And I think people want to feel part of a community, especially if they're outside of the art world. You know, it brings everybody together, and I think that, you know, that's a massive part of this project, is to kind of work with everybody.
It's called I Exist.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's a big statement to say, look, this is where we are, this is who we are.
Yeah.
Look at this book. This is what we do. We exist.
Yeah, we're here. Yeah. Pretty straightforward. And yeah, I wanted to put a big stamp on it, you know, and that title just really made sense.
Yeah, it pops out at you, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about your practice as an artist.
Okay.
You know, how did you begin? What got you started? How did you get to where you are today with your own art practice?
So I've been drawing, painting, illustrating since I can remember. But I always used art, for me, was always a real form of therapy. It was always a response. I used to use it, you know, again, probably subconsciously as a kid, being uncomfortable in my body. I would do a lot of like autonomy paintings, and different, you know, I guess like the real classic cliche artist with pain and trauma. It was just, it was always used as a therapy, and I've just always changed my practice. But in the last 5 years, since I started transitioning, my artwork began to change, and I noticed that a different style was happening and forming. It then changed again when I started taking hormones, and then it really changed again when I started to medically transition and have top surgery, and I started producing all of this work that is my style now, I guess. And I just haven't stopped kind of documenting that and creating artworks, you know, whether that's illustrations or on the streets, since then. Yeah.
So there's various key stages there that you've just described, and you said actually they're changing. The art is changing with each element of you know, the transition or your life stage at that particular point. How were they changing? What was going on with the art at these points? Is that something you can reflect on?
Yeah, I mean, my work pre-transitioning used to be actually quite delicate and quite soft. And now, you know, in my work, you can see like the contrast of harsher lines. It's a lot more bolder. And I think where I feel comfortable for the first time in my life within myself, that's now echoing in my work. And it's interesting because I look at some of the pieces that I used to produce to now, and the lines and the work seem a lot more masculine and a lot bolder, which is really interesting as well.
This is the now.
Yeah, compared to, I think before I didn't really know myself, and I think that kind of came out and was expressed in my artwork too. I didn't really know. I dabble a bit in different mediums, but now I'm like, no, this is my work. This is me.
And tell me about the street art as well, because you're a street artist as well. You know, obviously do paintings, you do illustrations, you do the whole bunch of stuff. But I first came across your work when you were painting at the World Pride Festival in New York. It was last year.
Yes.
So tell us about the street art and what got you into that.
Yeah, so when I moved to Southsea, I moved back to Portsmouth about 8 years ago, and I met a various group of people that were artists, my dog Size being one of them. And, you know, at the time they were kind of doing a lot of street artwork. And I think in my head, I just still assumed that street art was everybody used a spray can, and, you know, it was a lot of wording, lettering. And there were these group of people, you know, my dog Size being one of them, with tiny paintbrushes painting on walls. And I was like, this is beautiful. Like, this is fine art on the streets. And the concept of that just blew my mind. And I started playing around and, you know, getting to know these artists, and my style just developed from there. And there was this real love of being outside and talking with other people and people interacting with the work. And I think, you know, being trans as well, I was like, this is an incredible platform here to talk about the subject, to talk and, you know, talk to other artists and other viewers and really have this beautiful engagement. So it was so much more than just, I love street art now and want to paint on a wall. It was, wow, this is really taking up space. This is taking up physical space. And yeah, educating people.
And it's a space that people can access, you know, freely and readily, can't they? So if you're painting on the street and you're doing a piece of work that's, you know, celebrating trans bodies like you might be doing, do you find that you get conversations started on that? Do you find that you're able to engage with the sort of general public through the street art?
Massively, you know, it's little things like on my work, you can see like the nipples or the scars. That has to start a conversation, and I think that's really important.
Did you when you started sort of depicting yourself, what sort of age were you at this point of view, and what made you start thinking, actually, yeah, I'm going to draw myself now? Because that's quite it's such a personal thing to do, to draw yourself, to put yourself out there and show it to everyone. I mean, yeah. What was the impetus for that, and what were your feelings behind it at the time?
I think I've always drawn myself, and that's because I'm my best subject, right? I know myself better than anyone. And I think there was that element of vulnerability that I really love. I feel like there's so much power with being vulnerable. And again, with that engagement, I can talk about that. I can talk about my experience, and I can connect with other humans, you know, not just other trans people when I'm, you know, painting outside, but, you know, people that have got mental health issues or, you know, have some sort of body dysmorphia or dysphoria. It was really it was strengthening other people being vulnerable. And I think that's why, yeah, I choose to kind of paint myself a lot.
So when other artists, other people might see you showing vulnerability by putting yourself out there, do you feel it sort of it eases a conversation? It makes you more approachable to people that might not have that gift to be able to put their self, you know, what they're feeling out there on a wall, but might want to talk to somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. It starts a conversation, and it is all about, you know, for me, everything I do is all about that human connection. And I feel like I can do that.
Last year, I mentioned briefly World Pride events, and you went over there. I think the Nomad Clan were out there as well. What happened there? I think you were the only trans person represented at that event. So tell me about how it came to be and what happened over there.
It was incredible. So obviously it was New York Pride, and it was 50 years of Stonewall. So they had an incredible project that was sponsored by HSBC and Macy's, and they basically employed 50 artists, street artists from all over the world to come and paint a mural. So there was 5 of us that fell under the LGBTQ spectrum, and I was the only trans artist, and went out there and painted a huge mural in New York City. And again, being good friends with the Nomad Clan girls, we flew out together, and it's quite surreal even when I talk about it now that happened. But also just an incredible thing that New York Pride did and had to offer, you know, to employ, you know, queer people. And you know, it's not many, you know, the street art world is small. The LGBTQ world is even smaller. So finding those people, but all being out there together was pretty awesome, actually.
What was the painting? What was the mural that you did over there?
So I did several of my figures, and they all had like different scars, different markings, and I use a lot of text as well. So I write, "You are loved, you are valid." I really like putting out positive affirmations. And again, it was quite political, going over to America and putting a huge trans piece in the middle of the city was a big thing. And there was part of me as well was like, oh God, do I leave the scars and the nipples till last? How safe am I? Because I always have to measure my own safety when painting on the streets as well. So it was a huge political thing to do, but it was one of the best pieces and the best things that I've ever done to date. And I still get messages today from young trans kids in America that go out and see the wall. And yeah, just that really.
So, what was the reaction generally? I mean, so you've got an audience there, the trans kid, people are definitely looking at the wall now. I mean, presumably it's still up. But you had that reticence. It sounds like a little bit of a caution whilst you were doing. So, are you at the back of your mind? Are you still playing with the idea that people might not take kindly to the sort of work that you put up?
Yeah, I mean, I've had times when I've been painting a wall, and the area isn't that safe, and I have to cautiously think about that. And I think that's something that isn't thought about a lot in the street art world. People go out and paint a wall and it's done. I have to think about, actually, I'm painting this wall and now I'm going to have to explain to you that I'm trans and what this is about. And that can put me in a risky situation. So I guess, yeah, I have to think about those elements a lot.
I suppose you don't think about that. I mean, I don't think about that when hearing that story, because you're right. You think about going to paint. Well, yeah, it's great, and everyone's going to think they might have a view on it and then walk on by, or they might chat a little bit. But then you're working with underlying thoughts and experiences from people looking at that wall or hearing your story for the first time, which I suppose could, it could add. It's a little bit different, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely adds a different element to it. But for every person that has commented and said that they don't like it or they don't understand, or there's two kids that are looking up and saying that there's a visible trans artist taking up space in the world. And so it kind of like, it's a scale, and it's always outweighed by the fact that that it's hopefully inspiring to a younger generation of artists as well.
I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? As you keep putting your art out there, it becomes more normalized. Things become the way that things are, and it's the kids that are looking at those are probably thinking, yeah, that's okay, it's cool, it's a great picture of a trans man, and that's what they're probably thinking. And because it's normalized, and you see people putting it out there, you see people like yourself talking about transition in a really positive way. I mean, on your artworks, you put positive affirmations all the time. I suppose if you keep that, then, well, that's the best way to keep going forward, right?
Yeah, I think so. And again, it just starts conversations with all people, painting a wall and having little kids come past, asking their parents about that. It's another educational tool. And I'm just here for the positivity of it all, really. I mean, there's so much negativity in the media, especially towards a lot of trans people. And I feel like if I can keep doing this and keep this momentum up, then I can outride that,
It's a good way of describing outriding it, because there's always going to be that little volatility, but then actually eventually it's going to plateau. It is going to be the way that things are.
Yeah.
Just going back to the book then, is it in the book, is the intention that it's going to be all your art, or is it just going to be picture? What's the sort of format of the book going to take? And just tell me a bit more about the structure of it.
Yeah, so it's going to be a proper art book, a hardback art book, and it's going to have these illustrations in, but it's also going to have some writing and some text, different bits of, I do journal quite a lot, but I think it's really important that with each illustration that there's a little bit of writing about that person's experience or how we got to that illustration. I feel like that will really do not just the artwork but the person that I've drawn justice. I also will have photography and images of a lot of the street art that I do, so there'll be a bit of everything, actually.
Yeah, so we'll hear the voices of the muses, if you like. We'll hear your voice, and we'll sort of see the selection of the work, if you like.
Absolutely, yeah. And like I said, I feel like it's a real kind of collaboration project. I couldn't have done it on my own. So having all of those kind of voices and images seen, is really, really special.
Samo, that's amazing. I love the book. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And thanks for sharing your story with us on Inspiring City.
Thank you so much.